UN 영어뉴스. The Tigris, the river that birthed civilization. This once mighty river is where humans first developed agriculture, writing, and the wheel. But now the lifeblood of the ancient world is under threat. Reaching the source of the Tigris is not an easy task, where a dirt road ends. A small path leads over the shoulder of a jagged mountain, whose peaks are gnawed like fingernails. The path becomes a goat track, treacherously narrow, winding across the hillside until it is halted by a tumble of springs. These form a torrential stream that disappears into a vast arched tunnel. When the nascent river emerges 1.5 kilometers later, it is tamed by whatever happened deep inside the cave. The ancient Assyrians believed this to be a place where the physical and spiritual worlds collide. 3,000 years ago, their armies traveled upstream to offer sacrifices, a relief of Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, from 1114 to 1076 BC, still stands at the mouth of the tunnel. Time has dulled his edges, but he remains upright and regal, pointing out across his empire. The source of the Tigris lies in present-day Turkey, where it flows southeast out of the Taurus Mountains. It skims a pinched corner of northeast Syria and then passes through the cities of Mosul, Tikrit, and Samarra on its way to Baghdad. In southern Iraq, the sprawling Mesopotamian marshes absorb the Tigris close to the confluence with its sister river, the Euphrates, and both flow together to the Persian Gulf. For 10 weeks, the author and a small team traveled the entire length of the Tigris River. Around 8,000 years ago, our hunter-gatherer ancestors settled in the great floodplain between these two rivers and developed agriculture and animal husbandry, leading many to call the area the cradle of civilization. From these early city-states like Eridu, Uru, and Uruk came the invention of the wheel and the written word. Codified legal systems, sailing boats, beer brewing, and love songs followed, among other inventions. And yet, because of the decades of conflict that have plagued modern Iraq, the fact that the Tigris has guarded and shaped our shared human heritage is easily forgotten. For 10 weeks in 2021, a small team and I traveled roughly 2,000 kilometers by boat and overland from the Tigris source to where it empties into the Persian Gulf, a journey one advisor told me likely hadn't been attempted since the Ottoman era. My goal was to chart the river's historical importance and tell its story through the voices of those who live along its banks, while also investigating the threats to its future, a combination of geopolitical instability, poor water management, and climate change has led some to state that this once mighty river is dying. I hoped our journey would be a reminder of what emerged from this land and what we would collectively lose if the river that birthed a civilization dried up. 80 kilometers from the Tigris source in Egil, Turkey, the ramparts of an Assyrian castle have been modified by the Greeks, Armenians, Byzantines, Romans, and Ottomans, who all later settled along the river's banks. Further downstream in Diyarbakir, Turkey, where another fortress still stands that has existed in some incarnation since the Bronze Age. A similar layering has taken place. Today, the city is the de facto capital of Turkey's large Kurdish population, and in its labyrinthine alleyways, we rested in a basalt courtyard under the shade of a mulberry tree, transfixed by the haunting sounds echoing around the walls. Diyarbakir is one of the major settlements along the Tigris and Turkey's largest Kurdish majority city. There, a woman in a quilted beige jacket sat on a bench, her right hand cupped around her ear. Her name was Feleknaz Aslan, and for 30 minutes her booming voice held us captive. She was a Zengbez, a Kurdish singing storyteller whose ancestors have passed stories and folk tales down through generations. Aslan's song was about a doomed love affair on the banks of the Tigris. Most Zengbez are men now, she said, but the practice was invented by women. It was a way of preserving identity and culture, and she explained that the Tigris is a common backdrop in these songs, recognized then as now as a central feature of life for Kurds in this region. Southeast of Diyarbakir, the Tigris etches a deep canyon through the Tur Abdin region of Turkey's Taurus Mountains. For centuries, this has been the heartland of the ancient Syriac Orthodox Church, whose origins date back to the dawn of Christianity. We climbed to a remote 4th century monastery, Mor Evgin, which clings to the cliff as if suspended by faith alone. Inside the nave, plaster upright by some of the world's first Christians, still stuck to the walls, and the spidery Syriac script crawled around the walls in webs of prayer. I lit a candle in an alcove and bowed my head. It was another reminder of how the Tigris' fertile watershed allowed Judaism, Christianity, and Islam to flourish. Abraham, a spiritual model for each faith, is said to have come from here, and how these populations later took their goods, ideas, beliefs to the far corners of the world. We traveled by small boat whenever possible, though access to the Tigris is often tricky. In Turkey, navigating the river is difficult because of a series of highly contentious dam building projects. In Syria, the Tigris is an international border. It wasn't until Mosul, a city carved in two by the river, that we were finally able to travel more freely. Mosul is one of the oldest cities in the world. When ISIS occupied Mosul from 2014 to 2017, it forbade residents from using the Tigris and Mosul's old city on the river's west bank became the group's last refuge. 5 sites to see along the Tigris. Diyarbakir city walls walk along the ancient structures to take in thousands of years of the region's layered history and take in panoramic views across the city. Mosul Heritage House, a restored heritage home-turned museum and cultural hub that's emblematic of Mosul's post-ISIS rebirth. Great Mosque of Samarra, the spiraling snail-shell minaret of Molwiya is one of Iraq's iconic sites and has stood since the 9th century. Iraq Museum, a vast and remarkable collection of the nation's storied history. Mesopotamian marshes, expansive, biodiverse wetlands that have nurtured the unique culture of the marshy Arabs for millennia. During the fighting, every bridge in Mosul spanning the river was destroyed, and some jihadists reportedly jumped into the Tigris in an attempt to escape during the final battle. Historically, the river might have been a connective force, but we saw how it became a point of conflict. Mosul's Arabic name, Al-Mawsil, Mosul, means the linking point, likely because it was a crossroads of trade and a major hub along the Tigris between Diyarbakir and Basra. Established in the 7th century BC, is one of the oldest cities in the world, and during its pinnacle in the 12th century AD, it not only wielded great power and influence over the region, but became ethnically and religiously diverse. This confluence of cultures created a rich cultural space, and while much of the old city was destroyed by ISIS, the city's spirit lingers on. People think we have nothing left, said Salman Kailala, who co-founded the Tigris River Protectors Association and a companion on our journey. But there's so much along the Tigris that survived it all, and more than that, we Iraqis always revealed we will never accept destruction. In Mosul, the toppled 12th century Great Mosque of Al-Nouri is being reconstructed with a huge endowment from UNESCO and the UAE. Just as striking is the community-led cultural revival. Opposite Al-Nouri is Baitna, meaning our home, where young Mosulawi artists have created a multi-purpose museum, cafe, and venue space by refurbishing an old Ottoman home. We don't want people to forget what happened here. Zara Salem al-Dabag, one of the space's founders, told me, but we want to create opportunities for employment and a place to support people with skills. The ancient gate marks the entrance to Ashur, the first capital of the Assyrian Empire. The Tigris carried us on to Ashur, the first capital of the Assyrian Empire, where a 4,000-year-old ziggurat looms over the river. In the desert beyond were Nimrud, a later Assyrian capital, and the 2,000-year-old caravan city of Hatra. All three were damaged by ISIS, but heroic teams of local archaeologists are doing their best to protect the sites, even with the scant resources available. In a region that often makes international news for its war and hostility, one of the most lasting impressions of my journey was that of unadulterated hospitality. Even during Ramadan, tea was prepared by hosts who were themselves fasting. Many a poor goat ended up atop a rice platter for us in lavish banquets. In the village of Tigris, the mayor told us how two young shepherds smuggled civilians across the Tigris from ISIS-held territory to safety at night using only a tractor in a tube. I found that no amount of recent violence could shatter residents' willingness to help strangers and their sense of generosity. Like strands of the braided river itself, the Tigris is woven throughout all of these stories as a boundary between life and death, but also as the vehicle for great acts of kindness. We spent a Sunday with the Mandeans, the smallest and perhaps oldest ethno-religious group in Iraq. The Mandeans believe the Tigris is a sacred life source and therefore live along its banks. Unlike Christianity's single baptism, Mandeans are baptized regularly. I watched as, one by one, a priest led 8 women to the Tigris and gently submerged them, whispering prayers in Mande, an ancient Aramaic dialect, for which they are the sole guardians. The water here is the same as in the next universe, the priest's assistant told me. The Mandeans believe the Tigris is sacred. The river that the Mandeans and so many communities rely on is in danger, but from activists like Kailala to the archaeologists of Ashur to the Moslawi artists reclaiming their culture, I found that the Tigris guardians are not willing to give up and are committed to rebuilding. When I asked Kailala about the future of the river, he said simply, Iraqis must always have hope. Whatever generations before us do, we can change